Maybe. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Faith, Family, and Friends. I swear I was going to catch myself. It's either the morning light or Faith, Family, and Friends. So the morning light, Pastor here, Pastor Ralph from Fulton, with our try to every week. Lately, it's been sort of every other week. Interviews with people from all over the world. Got to mute my Instagram. I thought that might be my guest. And I'm like, I hear her, but I don't see her. Dina Zaphiris will be with us tonight. Part 2 of an interview that we did some time ago, and she's been busy than a one-arm bandit. No, I was thinking paper coat hanger. Is that a saying? I get my sayings messed up. It's busy than a one-arm paper coat hanger. Yes, that is true. She's crazy. One-arm bandit, my wife says. Crazy good. I mean, so we were going on last week, but she had a difficult dog to train. Dina is a great animal trainer. She does horses, she does dogs, and she trained celebrity animals for a number of years, animals of celebrities for 20 some years. Anyway, I'll tell you more about it when she comes aboard. I thought I'd get on early, let you know what we're doing in the next few weeks, and my calendar on my phone here, my old-fashioned Android. Kids tease me about it. Next week and the week following, we have some great interviews coming up. Not the church board meeting, that's Monday. Alternatives Galas on Wednesday, which is a great thing. My good friend, Greg Marsh from down East Maine, and his lovely wife, Amy, that's a great name.
It is.
Will be with us talking about, sharing with us their experience at the Republican National Convention in Wisconsin as delegates from Maine, with David Whitney and a few others, I think, from Maine that went on the trip. And by the looks of the pictures early this summer, wow, they met and hobnobbed with quite a few famous people, but good people, conservatives, who love the Lord, some of them. Amy and Greg love the Lord. We're going to talk to them and let them share their story next week. And we'll probably, Greg and I, and both Amy's, will just probably agree with everything that's going on, because we have like minds and like hearts in our faith, but also in our politics and what's happening in our world. And I am not ashamed to bring them aboard and talk about what is happening. In some respects, what's not happening. The tide is going to turn. So anyway, that's next week. Let's see. The following week, we've got Northwest Stories. I can't wait to interview them from all the way from Oregon. That's going to be at 9 o'clock, not 7 o'clock. 9 o'clock. Not 7. Usually we do our interviews at 7 Eastern Standard Time. And these boys are out on the West Coast. They have kids. We don't have kids. We get dogs. I do have to sort of take care of them, the kind of kids. They're in the back bedroom here where I sleep on the bottom floor when it's hot, because they hear other voices with our interviews and they start barking. So anyway, that'll be great. Northwest Stories is a great band, a couple of guys with families who just sing these wonderful songs about Jesus in a folk manner. I don't know how. I know the lead singer, one of the singers, sounds a lot like John Foreman. I told him, your sound is akin to Foreman's solo work. John Foreman is a front man for Switchfoot, has been for years. It's the real man of God. Then we've got Regina Ray coming on Wednesday. She's a country western artist, Christian singer. Her folks used to go to Fulton Christian Church, which is kind of neat. So that connection is great. And then we've got John Gibson coming on Thursday. And because his wife's handling some of these arrangements, I know it's going to go on. We need our wives, and obviously not just for that. I'm not trying to sound sexist, but us guys are one-track mind. And I've only had to learn the calendars and more organizational skills, but it's an uphill battle with me. But my wife seems to grab those kind of things easier. They have the women can do many things with their head. They can have many tracks. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So Lisa Gibson, thank you for helping me out. She said I might have to give her a reminder. So John Gibson was a great CCM artist back in the day. He is the white Jesus. The white Jesus. Wow. It's been a
You're
long
tired.
day.
Wow.
I know. Wow.
White.
Sorry, folks. He is a white Stevie Wonder. Thank you, Amy. In fact, he's worked with Stevie Wonder, some of his projects, both of their projects. And to hear his voice, you think you're listening to Stevie Wonder. And then I won't bore you with details of what 2 or 3 that we have in October. And we're always working on them. We are trying to get Catherine Michon on here. I just got her book today. I'm Still Here, A Dog's Purpose Forever, illustrated by Seth Taylor. The illustrations are beautiful. And they go along so lovingly with the text through the eyes or mind of the dog. And I think Tucker's in a lot of these pictures. That's Bruce and Cameron. Bruce, Cameron, and Catherine's, his wife's dog. It's actually her dog, but Tucker will allow that Bruce is part of the family. Bruce Cameron, of course, A Dog's Purpose, and all the other books that he's written. We've had him on our show on the radio and on our podcast too, Faith, Family, and Friends. And we'll try to get a free copy if we can get Catherine to come on board. I've got to do an interview on Amazon. And the kids loved it. I read it to them today. Didn't take more than 20 minutes to read. We are waiting for, once again, for Dina. So I'm going to, yeah, it just turned 7. Hey, are you there? I'm going to maybe invite her, but I've done the invite. And I've copied that. Here's the copy again. Well, can you answer that for me? Folks, I'm sorry. This is live. It happens frequently, but can't lose any sleep over it.
That's just saying that you're...
Yeah, that's just saying. Get the copy, so let's get it on there. There we go. See if she, it may be the same, SK59RD6JD. That's not it. Okay. You heard that. Same link, but something may have called her away. So we will wait for our guest. Yeah, it was all good. It was all good. So I'm not sure what happened, but I did get a message back. Dina Zaphiris. Let me just give you a lowdown of hers from my Facebook post. She has had 23 years of training dogs. She's here. Well, I don't see her coming on. So what is going on with the link? In waiting. Well, let me see. There she is.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
I was like, I'm here in the waiting room.
Yay. Just get on. I just saw your picture.
Finally.
Yeah, finally. It's live. We don't care. We've never been sacrosanct professional here at Faith, Family, Friends. And I think our audience knows that. And they roll with the punches like we try to. So, Dina,
Awesome.
you are, I was just saying before I came on a little early to give our folks an update on the guests that we have coming up. And which I hope include a mutual friend of ours whose book I just finished reading, Catherine's book.
Love them. Love Catherine. Love Bruce. And I have not read the book yet, but I trained Tucker. That's the book.
Trained Tucker.
I trained Tucker.
That's great. I read it
know.
for my kids, and toward the end, I barely was able to keep it in. The old allergy started acting up, and high schoolers there looking at me, listening to me. But they reviewed it, and I gave her some reviews, and she said she loved that angle of high school students listening and commenting. So anyway, we're trying to get her on and a few other people, but it's great to have you aboard again. You've been busy, as I said, started to say, busy than a one-arm paper coat hanger. My wife said, what did you do? One-arm bandit, she said. Well, last week you had a difficult dog.
I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
So,
is there such a thing as a difficult dog?
No. I honestly, it's just been crazy. And answer your question, dogs become difficult, I believe, because of the human or the situation they were in.
Right.
It's hard for me to believe that a dog could be born bad.
Yeah, same
or
here.
Evil.
Yep.
It's just hard to believe. So mostly what I've seen is either we don't know the background of the dog, it's something may have happened, or it's clear that something happened. We know the background, he was abandoned or starved or whatever it was. So I would say, there's no difficult dog. We need to be detectives and figure out what
Yes.
happened. And I always
Yes.
like to say that I'm a detective. And it's
Yes.
kind of like what a doctor is. They're a more educated,
Uh-huh.
right? They have a more educated guess because
Yeah,
there's
that's
no
a good
way
way
to
to put
know
it.
for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
even if you have tests and scans and blood work, there's a still
Mhm.
that je ne sais quoi. Like we may not
Yeah.
know, but
Right.
my guess is better than your guess
Yeah.
as a dog trainer. So we do the
Yeah.
best we can, but it is a lot like detective work these days. And
Yes.
the more honest people are with
Mhm.
their dog trainer, and I will
Right.
just say this because I've had a lot of people lately say, "Well, he's fine. He's never really had any bad moments," and then it
Mhm.
comes out,
Yeah. Right.
third
Yes.
lesson,
As
fourth
you.
lesson.
Yeah.
Well, there was that time he bit, my son's friend in the
Yeah.
face or whatever.
Yeah. Tell me
That's
more about
important.
that.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
we're detectives. We're
Yeah.
detectives. I'm
I don't. You
always
may.
trying
You
to
may
learn.
remember the name of it. I'm sorry. I quickly looked over to see if I could look at it. As part of my ongoing own every book on dogs forever that's been written, which is a tall order of um, thing that you want. What do we call it? Your basket or bucket list.
Bucket
Yeah.
list.
But
Bucket list.
it's a book by an animal psychologist, dog psychologist, and it is fascinating. And the gentleman, I wish I could remember his name because I'm sure that you've heard of him, but I'm not going to bother leaving you alone while I go look at my stack.
Is it an older person?
It's an older book, Brown, and the guy really does his work, and he does, like you said, the detective work. And
Right.
his motto or MO is that there's no bad dogs. You just have to do that investigating. And
Yeah.
I'll
they
text
can
that to you
come.
later. I'm sure you're
Yeah.
aware of it. But I was thinking too, it may be like, of course, I know it's fictional, but we love Heartland. We watched that, and Amy is her name on there. Well,
Yeah.
that's her fictional name, but I can't think of her name now. But she does a lot of that. I don't know how accurate, because you do horses too.
Yeah.
Amber, yeah.
Well, so many people have told
Yeah.
me about it. But I
Yeah, it's a
haven't
great
seen it.
show. And
Yeah.
she's always doing that. People bring her horses that are difficult, and it always ends up being something in the owner that has to come out.
Well,
So.
I will say horses and dogs both, and it might be stating the obvious, but they really do pick up on energy,
Yes.
surrounding energy, and that's why you'll a person who doesn't like dogs, the dog will growl at that person.
Yeah.
The dog does not like people who don't like him, and they're very good at that. And
They know
horses are more, it's very, when you're up there on the horse's back and you're 5 feet off the ground or
Right.
more sometimes.
Yeah.
And you feel their back. They look at something may be in the bushes, and you feel their back tense, and it's right before you know they're going to spook or buck. So it's really hard to stay relaxed in those moments, and you have to train yourself, because if you tense up, the horse feels everything, and they're prey animals. So they're prey animals. So the predator prey thing, it's incredible that a horse allows us on their back with a bit in the mouth, trapped there, and that they're willing, because really a horse can overpower you even if you have a bit. If he wanted to run, if he wanted to flip over and get you off his back, he could. So it's amazing to have that partnership.
They have that hesitancy in a good way. That's almost like a choice they seem to be making. As you're sharing that, I'm thinking that maybe as domesticated as dogs are, horses probably would be second or third in that list of animals.
Well, they
cats
definitely
refused.
and they say that the dog, it was the first domesticated animal.
Right. Yeah, I can certainly believe that.
So, and then we had sheep and, different livestock, but horses definitely are up there. I wonder what the order actually is, but I know dogs were first.
Yeah. And I bet you if they did the experiment, maybe you know more about this, but with dogs, like they have with dogs, that oxytocin, that chemical that rushes through our bloodstream, is in both the owner of the dog as he pets it and the dog himself.
That's right.
And I'm sure that the horses, if they ever did that, I'm sure it'd be true.
I wonder about the horse. I wonder. That's very interesting. I know that I feel the same when I'm looking at my horse, looking into her eyes and
big
scratching
eyes.
her. I know I feel the oxytocin. I don't know if she does. So the dog is a mutual thing, almost like breastfeeding. They've proven that in petting a dog, breastfeeding, certain other things.
Wow.
Very few things.
That's great. Continuing on this line of that medical and biological kind of research. Now, you've done your own research in terms of a dog being able to sniff out cancer. Share some of that with us, because I know that's something new, and then we can go back maybe to a story or two the celebrity animals that you've trained that we started off the last time. Yeah.
So I'll kind of start at the beginning, then go back, take you through how it started. But I'll start with the end so everybody knows what we're talking about.
Yes.
So I was hired as the dog trainer and to also run the clinical trials for a few studies, some of which were published. So, and what we did was we trained dogs to be able to detect early stage cancer in human exhaled breath samples. So that's a mouthful.
It was that first, before the urine, perhaps. Yeah.
Oh, yes, before. And in urine, we did E. coli, and I'll explain that one as well. So it was around 2003, and I had been doing search and rescue, so I had a lot of a background in scent detection, and it's rigorous and vigorous training. You have to. If you have a wilderness search dog, you're hiding in the woods, you're climbing mountains, you're getting certified, you're earning your, you're passing your test, you're learning your map and compass, you're finding missing persons, cadaver. So I was able to find both. So you have to get certifications for cadaver and for live missing person scent. Wow. The dog becomes scent specific. So if I had your hat or your pillowcase, I could send the dog out to find that particular person. Based on a scent article. So it was incredible training. And it was at the same time, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. So she was going through treatments from about, she passed in 2010, but it was probably somewhere around 1995 when she was diagnosed. So she lived quite a long time with breast cancer.
Yeah.
But everything kind of came together. So I was doing scent detection. My mom had breast cancer. And one day the phone rang, and it was Dr. Michael McCulloch from Pine Street Foundation in San Anselmo, California. And, this was before social media. It was before, you might have had a website, but it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Definitely way before the iPhone, way before the MySpace or anything. So you had to find people through calling someone or a veterinarian. It was just more. I liked it better. Now it's and we'll get off on that tangent later. But the phone rang and he said, we're running a study, and can you come up and help? And so I did. I said it was incredible. So he said they were going to train dogs to find cancer, to sniff cancer. I said, I'm in.
Yeah,
I am a scent detection trainer. And, my mother having cancer, it just like the two worlds came together, and I felt so passionate, like I would do anything. And I stopped everything and I went. I was able to do it. I don't know how. I was young, so I just stopped what I was doing and I just left. And I was, I'm just going to leave and go do it. And I and another man named Kirk Turner, who's now passed away, were pretty much the first ones. Kirk was first because he was already doing it. And I came in and assisted in, study design, data recording, dog training, running the dogs. And we did it. We did a double-blind study. So we trained the dogs on known samples. We knew which samples had cancer and which didn't. They all came from cancer patients, all of our samples. And then we had healthy control samples too. So the dogs were not only able to tell you what samples had cancer, but they were able to tell you which ones did not have cancer. So we put
that is
healthy,
accurate,
cancer, healthy cancer, so they could really pick the cancer sample. And we had that. There's a tray on the ground, and maybe I could send you videos later. But
that's cool.
It's kind of a rack. We call it a scent rack, and it's low and it has holes. So we place the samples in the tray. There's like an inner rack that slides in with your samples, and one sample at a time. We trained them until they could sniff 5 samples at a time. So we'd let them in the room. They'd go back and forth, and they'd hit the tray or sit at the cancer sample, and we'd record it. So in the final study, it was double blind with the researchers, and everybody was there. A double blind study means nobody in the room knows which samples are what. They're just numbered. So, and our results were in the 99% sensitivity and specificity.
That almost makes me cry.
For lung cancer. Wow. And for lung cancer, it was 99. I think for breast cancer, we were at 88% sensitivity. Wow. And specificity. I have to look at the results, but it was published in 2006 in the Journal of Integrative Cancer Therapies. And it was the first published study on the subject. So from there were a tremendous amount of people that wanted to learn how to do it. There were replication studies, which are very important. And then Michael and I did another study together with ovarian cancer samples. We did not publish that one. I think he still has the data and something's still going on with that. But the dogs were promising the whole time. I ended up collaborating a little bit with Duke University, with somebody named Jeffrey Marks in the breast cancer department. And again, we used plasma. And we had great preliminary results. And what we were using those preliminary results for were to try to get funding for a larger study. Couldn't get funding. It was very hard to get funding. And here you are on the precipice of like a huge breakthrough.
Because early detection is a key thing, right? For all cancers,
So, and then UC Davis came along and we wanted to train the dogs in mouth cancer. So we did mouth cancer in sputum samples because again, to get a biopsy on a mouth cancer, you're looking at disfiguring the person. So if we could have a non-invasive detection technique before we even biopsy, it would be nice. So again, super preliminary results, they couldn't get more samples. So something was always happening to kind of deter everything. But shortly after that, I was asked to go to Hawaii and train urinary tract infection dogs for disabled people, because if you're disabled, you do not have the warning signs of a UTI.
Right.
And the disabled people often die from a simple urinary tract infection.
Yeah, that could
so
be
we
easy.
Thought, what if we could train their service dogs to check their urine once a week for E. coli? So the main bacteria we studied was E. coli. There are a few other bacterium that cause UTIs, but the common one is E. coli. And the hard part about this is all urine has some E. coli in it. So how are you going to train the dog when the E. coli is at a certain number, which signifies infection, right? So we were like, we don't know if this can happen. But the urine, unlike the cancer samples, the urine samples were easy to get. We had thousands of urinary UTI sample urine and thousands of healthy urine. Easy peasy. So you have to literally have hundreds of samples to train a dog. If you only used 3 cancer samples to train a dog, the dog would memorize those samples. So the wonderful thing about the studies we did do and that were published is we had such a large amount of samples that the dog could generalize the odor. But you can't use 2 samples. You have to have hundreds of samples. So with the urine, it was a lot easier, a lot less expensive for the people to get the samples from the laboratory. And we were able to train 10 Labrador retrievers that were already service dogs to detect with I think it was 99 or 100% accuracy. The numbers were outrageous. And this is published in the Oxford Journal of Medicine. So after the call, if you want, I can send you the link to the 2006. The 2006 study was published at that super high accuracy level for breast and lung cancer. And then I think it was 2010 maybe. I have to look in the Oxford Journal of Medicine for the urinary tract for E. coli in urine. So the dogs can do it. But what you start to learn with science is there's a lot more involved than just training the dog. You have to go through IRBs. You have to work with universities. You have to become a researcher. You have to run clinical trials. You have to make sure the room is clean and the dogs are watered and you're keeping schedules because when people come in and check your facility, and there's a lot to doing research. So I really learned so much, but the main point is that the dogs can do it.
Yes.
And but the FDA, has to get involved. There has to be a regulation. There has to be, how are we going to train the dogs in a uniform way and have enough dogs and enough samples to keep the dogs trained, and then create these facilities? Are people going to send samples in? It became so confusing to a lot of people. We were just excited to do it. We said, who cares how we do it? Let's just keep doing it and show that it works. And that was our goal. But really, the practicality of it, the dogs are not a drug. So the FDA can't they regulate drugs and equipment.
Yes.
And food, and so I don't even know if it was FDA. There's another one that I'm thinking of too, that there was just no way we were getting through that with dogs. It was it was a weird science. And as long as I was, out there speaking and doing, there were enough people going, that's so weird. What are the dogs going to do? Are the dogs going to come and sniff me? They couldn't
Could get
make the
past
jump that
Yeah.
the dogs are going to be on the floor sniffing a sample from the
Yeah.
person, not
Right.
sniffing the person. So we had protocols. I wrote a whole protocol to train
Wow.
biodetection dog. I ended up teaching students from all over the world because we were the first to publish. So people
Sure.
would come from different countries and stay with us and learn how to do it. I'd give them a small certification. It was just a personal
Yeah.
certification saying, I've done this and I trained this person how to do it. So if
Mhm.
researchers wanted to talk to me, I could say, yes, I've trained this woman. She knows what she's doing. So a couple of my students went out and did other studies,
Oh, good.
programs, started
Yeah.
nonprofits. I started a nonprofit and I forgot. So then we had a collaboration in Chico, California. This was after I left LA and before I got to South Carolina. We
Yeah.
worked with Enlo Regional Cancer Center in Chico, California.
Hmm.
It was wonderful. We had like a 2 or 3 year program with them, a couple of years.
Uh-huh.
And we said, how can we run this program? Enough research. We've already, we
Yeah.
need replication studies. We need people, we need
Yes.
thousands of
So that you
people
know it works,
doing
right. Yeah.
to be doing larger scale studies. And because we knew we had to get samples from there, we weren't going to have enough samples to really run a trial with 10 dogs and
Yeah.
5,000 samples. That's the numbers you're talking about to make a
Yeah.
difference. And that would be $1 million to $5 million study. So it is very expensive
It's crazy.
to collect and buy the samples and go through the process. So we decided we were going to get one dog and we were going to name him Enlo. And after Enlo Regional
Yeah.
Cancer Center, they put up billboards. We trained him. We had enough samples to train one dog and do our own blinded studies with him.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
he was incredible. So
Wow.
we used Enlo, and the collaboration was a couple of years right before COVID. We ended right after COVID. We continued into COVID a little bit, but they had given us a research room at the cancer center.
Uh-huh.
And with COVID, they took over the room and no one was allowed in,
Yeah.
and that it pretty much ended.
Uh,
And but Enlo the dog, he had billboards. He was famous in Chico, and we raised awareness. I would go and I
Yes.
would speak about it
It's
in
great.
hopes that we would get
Yeah.
this larger study. You
Yes.
can't keep doing studies with 5 dogs and 400 samples. It's
No.
just
Yeah.
you have to go to the higher level. So you're talking about a facility opening and to have 100 dogs in training according to the protocol
Uh-huh.
with a minimum standard performance. It's a lot more than it
Yeah.
seems. It's
Wow.
not about I have one dog that can smell
Yeah.
cancer. It's
Yeah.
training teams that are ready
Mhm.
and really because the dog is not a drug, it's not a machine, it's not an
Mhm.
MRI machine, that to regulate a dog, how do we do that?
Yeah. Yeah. What does
And
it look like?
it's
Yeah.
hard and they're
It's
all different. Dogs are
Yeah.
different, machines are
Yeah.
all the same. This MRI machine is the same as that one in that
Yeah.
center
Yeah.
over there.
That part is
But the
yeah.
dogs are all different
Yeah.
and they have bad days and they
Yeah.
have, but see the number of dogs, if you had a 20 dog team
Mhm.
and the handler knows the dog very well. Well, if 2 dogs do decide they'd rather hunt squirrels, they're out for the day, but
Yeah.
we
What do
still
you
have
do?
18 runs to do. If
Yeah.
all 18 dogs are hitting on the same sample, to
Mhm.
me,
Yeah.
that's statistically significant beyond belief,
Yeah,
right?
for
If you
sure.
only had one dog hitting on a sample, we can't go tell someone,
No.
you have cancer. But
Yeah.
if you had
Right.
18 trained dogs hitting on that sample,
Yeah.
again, you're looking for statistical significance. So we had to get more samples and more dogs, and there was no money. We put hundreds of thousands of dollars into that foundation. So it was called In Situ Foundation,
Uh-huh.
and we closed it right after COVID because it was going nowhere.
That's
And to run a nonprofit, it's
Yeah.
10 grand just to do your taxes every year.
Yeah, for
And we
sure.
didn't bring in anything. We
No.
funded, we
Wow.
never hardly ever got it off the ground with
That's so sad
incredible
because
results with incredible
Yeah.
results.
I mean, if to me, the greater good so that we can have early intervention in all these cancers, you'd
Yeah.
think that entrepreneurs, people that want to give money to good causes like that,
Yeah.
there's a lot of good causes, would think, yeah, let's do that so that
Yeah.
we can get it and make it happen. So it's
Yeah.
kind of on the back burner right now, or
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, it's always on the back burner. So
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
we are open to do research projects. We can
Mhm.
work with universities to help them along in their research if they want to start a program. So
Yeah.
we are here, and I say we, but
Yeah.
it's we have the protocols to train biodetection dogs and the
Yes.
number of samples you need and how to rotate the samples in and out, how
Mhm.
to reward the dog, how to stay out of the room and let the dog search independently so that the handler's not capable of cueing the dog. They have to go do
Yes.
it by themselves.
Right.
We have a lot of intellectual property that
Yeah.
we're happy to share.
Sure.
I would go and just help anyone pretty much who wants to do it.
Yeah.
So I thought about putting together an online course and just educating people. But what it really did was it aided in the development of the mechanical nose. So they're still working on a mechanical breathalyzer.
I've
for
heard
cancer.
about that. Yeah. I'd rather have a live dog than a automated
Well,
dog.
see, but
but-
they want the machine.
Yeah.
You can't get the dog to be calibrated exactly right. They're all
Yeah.
different. But you have a breathalyzer. So if you're driving drunk and somebody says blow into this tube, all the breathalyzers are the same. You
Right.
blow in, it tells you your BAC. So from your breath, it tells you what's in your blood, right?
Right.
When I was younger, I thought, oh, that must be they're smelling the alcohol on your breath. No, your breath sample is telling the machine your blood alcohol content.
Right.
So the breath carries volatile organic compounds that can be measured for for cancer, for drugs, for if you eat garlic and blow, we can see the garlic, the outgassing of the garlic. So, these are volatile organic compounds that come out of the human body as waste products. So just as if you ate garlic and there would be your blood, right? Garlic's good for your blood. It lowers blood pressure. Well, you can see that through blood, but you can also measure it in the breath. So, it's a very interesting, non-invasive idea to be able to have a device you could just blow in and it tells you what's going on in your blood.
Yeah.
It's a non-invasive blood test. So, so we were really focused on the breath research.
Yeah.
And
maybe that'll go somewhere in terms of the bio mechanical aspect of it.
Well, I had a lot of offers with a lot of money of people who just wanted to be screened. So please, I'll give you, and you really can't, because the liability of telling someone or diagnosing someone, that is against the law.
Huge.
You are not.
Can't.
You are not allowed to diagnose cancer. The only thing that can diagnose cancer is an actual medical test. No. So if somebody had a dog and the dog said this, and you're going to go tell that person and ruin their life by saying, and what if you're wrong? So it is a very fine line. So there were, if you could have made a lot of money just. So in fact, there was a guy in Canada who I think started screening the fire departments because they have a higher rate of cancer. And he found the chief of Chicago's cancer. His dogs did.
Wow.
So he's out there doing it. But again, it's a risk. It's a risk. And it's an ethical question. And where do you send the person once they're diagnosed? How does it function? So there's a lot of holes in it.
Yeah.
But anyway, we can move on.
Suppose
it's an interesting story.
It is. That's so fascinating.
And if you want to, you can go to, I'll type it in the notes here.
Oh,
Dogs,
you can.
dogsdetectcancer.org. There's still a lot of, some of the news links got taken down because they're so old, but there's a lot of press and, talks about what we did. It shows our research with UC Davis. And I think the published studies are on that link as well. So then if you want anything from me after this, I can send it over to you.
Oh, please do. And I did share that website, dogsdetectcancer.org, on some of our links here tonight.
Cool. And it's old. I mean, it hasn't been updated since before COVID. So,
I'm a believer that obviously in God, we pastor a church here, but that nothing happens for everything has a purpose and a reason. All that work that you did. And I still believe that God gave dogs to us to be man's best friend. It's a cliche, but it's true.
I believe
that.
I know
all of that information, all the hard work, it can't go for naught. So
it adds. First of all, it was so much fun, and the people you meet and the places you go and giving talk. I went to China and spoke about it in China at the Pet Expo, the largest Pet Expo in the world. It was like, how you go to a convention center, like the Staples Center? It was like 18 Staples centers connected. That's how big the Pet Expo was. Germany, Switzerland, everybody from all over the world was there.
Yeah. Wow.
So I had so much fun, and it was just a really neat time when,
and the information's out there. So
it makes you a better trainer. The more dogs you train, the better trainer you become. I have my hair in a ponytail, and I see it now. It's starting to act up.
At least you got hair that backs up.
I blurred my background for you. Do you like my blurred background?
Yeah. The blurred background.
I don't know. It's doing something crazy with my. It's whatever. I put a virtual background in.
We've got you clear and free. That's good. That's what matters. Tell us. You shared
before the movie stars, because
yes,
I have a book coming out.
Tell us about the book. Yes,
it's a bit controversial.
Okay.
So how can a subject be controversial about dogs? I mean, what in the world could that be about?
Right.
So I'm going to preface it by saying what kind of a trainer I am before I tell you about my. I am a positive reinforcement based trainer.
Mm-hmm.
I use primarily 99.9. Okay, that's a lot. Yes. 99.9% of all my training, all my interactions, whether I'm training detection dogs, agility dogs, and I compete in agility. I teach agility. I teach pet dog training. 99.99% of my training is positive reinforcement.
That's good.
Okay.
Yep.
So, my back in the day, late 80s, 90s, it was, you teach the dog what to do. You never use punishment.
Yeah, as a way of.
Okay, to teach a dog. I mean, when did that?
How did even get in? I know when they don't.
I don't even know what that is. So there's this whole thing. This whole thing, punishment-based training. Now, I suppose if you go back 50 years ago, 60 years ago, there was a more militant style of training where you didn't use cookies. You would take the chain and say, sit, and you pull up. And then when the dog sits, you release the pressure. Good boy, good boy. And no, I mean, we've moved beyond that. So was that a change for the better? Yes, of course it was.
Yeah.
But it didn't mean that we should never be able to tell the dog wrong answer.
Right.
So the delicate and most horrible thing I've ever had to do is write this book, because I want to preserve real dog training, not militant, not positive only, but real in the middle, balanced training. It is, you teach a dog using positive reinforcement. You never teach a dog what to do using compulsion, pressure, release, or correction.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So you have a very interesting word, and that word is punishment. And if you look it up in Merriam-Webster dictionary, it says, these horrible punitive things that cause pain and harm. Punishment is, I'm going to make you suffer. It's mean. I'm going to make you cower. It's punitive. You're going to go into the closet now, and the punishment lasts for days and days. That kind of punishment is not what we're talking about. We're talking about B.F. Skinner, the father of operating
behavioralism.
And he made the quadrants of reinforcement: positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, negative punishment. So these are your tools in your toolbox. Now, anybody, I mean, if we go back to the cavemen, you think they beat the wolves? They beat them with a stick, and that's how they got them to cooperate?
Yeah, no, because I
think they were sitting around. They were sitting around the campfire, and no one really knows. But they were sitting, and Bruce, there was. I think Bruce wrote about this, and there were movies about this. But there's great reenactments, and Gregor Larson. You can look up his work. He's an evolutionary biologist. I think I'm getting it right, but he does talk about the evolution of. From wolf to dog. It's very fascinating. But the theory is somewhere between 15 and 30,000 years ago. The cavemen or early men, they're sitting around and they're eating meat off a bone. And these wolves, the friendlier ones, got closer and closer. Well,
over time,
you think they beat them with a stick? No, they threw the bone. They said, oh, good boy, look, they're here. Let's make friends. So positive reinforcement was, this is nothing new.
Yes.
It's nothing new. No. So, when you see this, I'm so happy there's a positive movement. I mean, it's great to have a positive movement. Yes. Karen Pryor and a few other people, but a big name in marine world training. There were a few people before her and right around her, but Karen Pryor is known for Don't Shoot the Dog. And she brought clicker training kind of from marine mammal world into pet dog training, and then you have Bailey's, and you have a lot of different people there. So once I start mentioning names and I forget a name, I'm going to get in trouble. So let's just There were
that.
wonderful people that
Yeah.
took the militant style of training and said, there's a better way. So, I loved that change. That was wonderful. But the early positive trainers still did correction once the dog understood and knew his job.
Right.
And knew it with an 80% or 90% success rate. So if I said sit to a dog and 9 times out of 10 he sits, you can assume he understands sit, right?
Yes.
So now, if he doesn't sit, I can apply like the least amount of pressure to say, oopsie, I'm not just going to let you just run off because I said sit. So I gave you a choice, number one. I taught you what to do. I rewarded it 5,000 times.
Yeah.
And now when I say sit and you don't, and you're going to get hit by a car, I have to teach you.
Right. Responsible for
to protect you.
Yes.
And my saying is correct to protect.
That's
so correction has no place in early training. It's an ugly subject. There's never been a book where someone like me came out, hey, look how great punishment is. But that's what I'm doing. I have to defend punishment. And punishment, according to B.F. Skinner, is anything that reduces the behavior, the likelihood of the behavior in the future. Anything. So if I have a cookie, here's a cookie.
Yeah. And
I say, hi, sit. And the dog jumps up and tries to snatch this out of my hand. If I remove that cookie, so I say sit with a cookie in my hand. The dog jumps up and tries to snatch my hand. Ow! Yeah. And I just go, okay, I put the cookie away. That is called reward removal. Negative punishment.
Yes, sure. So
now everyone's up in arms about the word punishment.
Yeah.
Because in today, punishment. Well, you're not looking at behavior modification. What the definition of punishment is anything. It could be It could be
right. Yeah.
It could be pop.
Displeasure.
It could be a leash pressure. It could be a leash pop. It could be a press on an electric collar. It depends on the dog and the situation.
Right.
If you have a Belgian Malinois who is running 30 miles an hour after a deer.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
How are you going to stop that animal? And what if he's about to cross a highway?
Exactly.
That's e-collar training. So the dog knows his job. He knows what to do. He's proved an 80 or 90 minimum standard performance at his command. And now we start adding in distractions. We set that dog up where all you'll hear dog trainers say is, set the dog up for success. Set the dog up for success. And yes, no one's going to take this out of context because they'll just cut that part out of my talk. In the beginning, you do set the dog up for success.
Sure.
But then you must set him up to fail. Yeah. If you don't set him up to fail in the end of training,
you're going to handle it.
Then real life will.
Yes.
And he will get hit by a car and receive the ultimate punishment, which is death.
Yeah.
Okay. So punishment in dog training, we talk about Lima, which is the least intrusive, minimally aversive.
Least intrusive, minimally aversive. Okay.
Yeah, Lima. I can write it here. Lima.
Yes.
Least. It's hard.
Invasive.
It's intrusive.
Intrusive. Yeah.
So intrusive measures would be, scolding, tying the dog up in the closet. Yeah. I mean, you don't want to be intrusive.
No.
And aversive suggests a physical leash correction or a reward removal can be very serious for some dogs. A timeout or a pop on a prong collar or an e-collar. A bump on an e-collar would be considered positive punishment. We're adding a zap. So the book is just kind of like, no one's talked about this. And there's a huge problem. So we have all these great dog trainers. All these great dog trainers coming out that have podcasts. You've got Ivan Balabanov. I'm going to butcher his name. You've got Robert Cabral. You've got all these people speaking out against it, but their followers are dog trainer people. Do you know what I mean? There's a certain, my fear is that the general public does not understand that the tools, any sort of punishment, prong collars, choke chains, electric collars, in I think it's Switzerland. They're limiting kennels now. You can't use dog crates or kennels because it's mean.
Oh my goodness.
no.
Wow.
Now listen, it's becoming illegal. So in Europe, I don't want to mention the countries because the laws keep changing, but there was legislation first, and then they passed the law in no prongs allowed in like Germany. Here, I can read you the countries, but it's already happened. So there's legislation in this country to ban all the dog training tools. Not only that, but all of the large organizations, and I don't, I'm not slandering them because they've come out with position statements saying we don't think anyone should be using any of these tools. Nobody should be ever punishing their dog ever because you can do everything with a cookie. And that's simplifying it.
Yeah,
so
it is.
Look, the positive reinforcement methods are, there's a plethora of things. You have differential reinforcement. You have, teach a different behavior in the place of the unwanted one. And you have all these ways, which are wonderful. But when all else fails,
The
you have to say to the dog, you
Yeah.
can't jump up on the curtains, scratching at the window, tearing down the curtains because there's a squirrel on the other side. So I say, is the dog well exercised? Does he have mental and physical stimulation? Is the dog well trained? If he's still tearing the curtains down, you're allowed to make the curtains like an electric fence. You know what I mean? It's like horses.
Yes.
Horses don't run around afraid in the pasture.
No.
They touch the fence once. They go, ah! And maybe they touch it a second time. And then within weeks, if this was the wire, you see this little thing? If this was, let me get a pencil. If this was, I have not one pencil, but if this was the electric fence, this AI thing's weird. If this was the electric fence, the horse is like right there. He's all, hi. And he'll put his head over it. He'll eat grass under it. He just knows not to touch the fence. There's no fear. He knows correction and aversive things when we're uncomfortable. So instead of thinking that these tools cause pain, maybe it's mild discomfort. It's like, I'd rather just do it than do that again. So think of it as like, I put some great studies in the book. Like they took amoebas and they put amoebas in a perfect environment. They gave the amoeba everything it needed to survive and thrive. And all the amoebas in the perfect environment died. And the amoebas that were exposed to stress had to cope to survive. In other words, human words. But those amoebas were very healthy. So, there's all this research on dopamine and stress and cortisol. So when you are mildly stressed, it's actually much better for you. You release cortisol, and then
to how to deal with it, right?
the dopamine comes in, and then the combination of dopamine and cortisol, it helps you cope. And then you're rewarded on the other side, like relief reward. Like when you almost hit a deer, it runs in front of your car, and you, oh my gosh, oh, what a relief. That relief
is part of the
almost more rewarding than here's a cookie or here's $20. So escape avoidance training, when the dog learns to avoid getting a zap. Oh, there's the curtains. I know
that in itself is rewarding.
Every time the dog learns to avoid the fence, or if you have a really good recall and then you've proofed that recall. Proofing is the phase of training when you decide to add distractions. So if my dog has a great come command, I know he loves to chase squirrels. So I'm going to go to the park where the squirrels are. You don't have to go right to a level 10 distraction, but I mean, you got to teach the dog, so it's best to creep up, like start with a few distractions, minimal, go to a better area. Then you want to get to his maximum distraction at some point. Because, and I forgot where I was going with that, but do you remember where I was going?
The minimal,
least intrusive, but you want to do low level distractions and a low level correction.
You're talking about how rewarding too, I think it.
Yes, that's right, dopamine. But as you increase the level of the distraction, like prey drive. So if that dog is running as fast as he can and he's chasing a rabbit, your correction has to bump up. I mean, he's not going to listen to a tiny or you shake the bag. Cookie, it's not
at this point. No, I'm going for the rabbit.
Right, but it's and everybody, the argument is like it's going to save the dog's life. So when the benefits outweigh the harms, and we never think of discomfort versus pain. It's like we're waking the dog up to get his attention back to save his life. Now think about this: you take your dog to the veterinarian. You can't tell them this is the veterinarian. This is going to help your behavioral and health.
Yeah. Right.
And we are going to take this needle and we are going to insert it all the way into your neck, being restrained on a cold table. That is more painful and more like random punishment. That is random and cruel punishment. I mean, I'm just calling it what it is. We have to do it because we know the benefits of doing it outweigh the harm.
Exactly.
But that is by far the most aversive, severe punishment that my dogs or any of my clients' dogs have ever. There's no way to tell them.
Yeah.
There's no way to tell them. They hate it. They go there. Some dogs have to be muzzled, you know, and it's just, well, we do it for their
baths. I don't like baths.
Health.
Worse than baths.
We do it for their physical health. Why can't we do this for their behavioral health? So it's becoming banned. Trainers like me are becoming canceled. Okay. I put up one video on Instagram about prong collars and talked about it very rationally, very thoughtfully. And I was banned. I was shadow banned for almost a year from Instagram. My posts, I'll show myself doing like a dance with my dog flipping through the air and dancing on my feet. I'll get one view. I've been banned. The AVSAB came out with a statement saying we will not refer trainers who use any sort of punishment. We will not refer you. The APDT is the only kind of big recognized certification company for dog trainers. They make you sign something saying you will not use any sort of punishment, and that they have a tattle system now. So if you know someone who's using it, that's a member of the organization, we should snitch on them. So it's really, you will be banned from social media. This book is coming out. I must love dogs because you don't make any money from books unless you're Bruce Cameron.
Right. Bruce,
you don't make any money from a book. So I've spent my whole last 2 years of my life writing this book, and it's never good enough. It's never good enough. But you know, and I will be canceled. So I must really love dogs because I don't have anything to gain from doing this. The only thing I have to gain is if one person hears me and understands it's okay. If you have done the work and you need more help. And when you look at the shelter dogs, and then I'll stop talking. But if you look at, I've told you the whole book now, you don't need to get one. But you know, these shelter dogs, the shelters are full. Nobody has time to take them out. The really hard pullers, no one wants to take them out. Shelters are not allowed to use prong collars. It's just the rule. It's not in their.
I'm thinking the dog behaviors get worse.
So I got prong collars approved by the board at our local shelter. And it was like,
that's huge.
The most transformative 3 months in dog training, because every single dog in that shelter, you could walk him with a finger, with a leash hanging over your finger like this. Did it hurt the dog? No, they would just rather not pull.
Yeah, they'd rather not pull. They made a choice. Yeah.
So what happened was somebody there said, it looks bad. And the donors are going to see that we use these horrible tools, which are not horrible. And I explain the physics of them in the book. I have veterinary chiropractors stating they are the least harmful of all collars, prong collars. They're actually designed so that you can't hurt the dog. It's a martingale. So somebody was upset, and the board came to me and said, we love you, but we're scared about how this looks.
That's crazy. Wow.
So the donations are more important to you than the dog's life?
Right.
And getting adopted? I was out of there. I said, I'm sorry, I can't help you.
Not to get political, but it almost seems, and I never would have thought, but it seems like it gets its tentacles into everything, is this whole cultural phenomena, progressivism, and pushing this feel-good mentality. I mean, we see it in parenting, over-parenting, and the kids don't know how to handle disappointment.
I have a chapter in my book called Gentle Parenting, because the dog training, we are anthropomorphizing dogs. We own them. You can't say you own another person. I own this. We own our dogs. They are property. We own our dogs. That's weird.
Figure it out here.
When you elevate them to human status, then we give them rights. And once they have rights, like if we change the word, which they're trying to do right now, from ownership to guardianship, then guess what's going to happen? Then I can sue Ralph on behalf of your dog. I can say, hey, Ralph, I can serve you with a lawsuit saying, I don't like how you're treating Fluffy. I don't like that Fluffy's in the backyard for 4 hours. Now I can pull a lawsuit on behalf of your dog. This is where we're going. There's many extremist groups, which are activists, not animal welfare, but animal activism.
That's all they care about is that.
We're not going to be able to own dogs.
Yes.
And yes, I will now tell you the name of my book, which is even more so why I'm going to get canceled.
Go for it.
Who Woke the Dogs Up?
Oh my goodness, I love that title. Yeah, right. Because who
woke the dogs up?
Yeah, yeah.
But it's like it's wokeness. Okay.
Yeah.
Is some of it okay? Maybe. I don't even know what it is. It's not correct English, so I don't like to. What is that?
No.
It's like yesterday I woke up, but I am woke. That's not English. Let's stop changing. I mean, let's come up with a word that's literate, please.
Yeah.
So, I start off the book saying my clients are liberals, my clients are Republicans, my clients are centrist, libertarian. It doesn't, I don't even care. I have all, and the reason we get along is we love our dogs.
Yes.
And we're capable of critical thinking, and I have I've never had anybody not want to work with me.
Right.
Because they're on one side of the political spectrum or the other.
Right.
So I'm a very middle of the road person. However, I really think that the extreme woke, because I have nothing against gay. I'm not a racist. Nothing.
Yeah.
Let's just be people and love one another.
Right.
So when you draw attention, it's gone too far.
Yes,
and actually the wokeness in that level, what you're talking about right there, it came into dog training, and it's canceling some of the greatest trainers. Now there's a lot of great positive trainers, but see, they're limited trainers. Yeah. So maybe they're brilliant, and maybe they can train an agility dog to be on the agility course. And maybe that dog does come when called with positive only. And if it does, do it.
Right. But for those few,
just trying to help the people.
Yes, that have the more difficult
ones. It's not working.
Yeah.
And I go and I try and I say, let's go this positive route. This is how long it's going to take. But the shelter dogs, back to them, they don't have time.
They don't have.
They don't have time. And if we can't get them to walk on a leash, people pass them over. Next dog, he's too much for me.
And then
Next dog, he's too much for me. Next dog, he's too much for me. The best thing you could do is train him how to walk. I had one older gentleman come in. He adopted a beautiful big German Shepherd named Isla. And she was the worst puller I've ever seen in my whole entire life. You had to wrap the slip lead around your arm like this. And if she pulled, you'd just fall. So we trained her with a prong collar. She got adopted like the next day. And the older man said, I've had shepherds my whole life, and I've never been able to walk them. And his eyes were tearing up. He said, how is it that this dog is so well trained? I said, it was 1 minute of training. She had 1 minute of training before you got here. I stopped the pull. You see, you're not allowed to say you can fix pulling in 1 second. There's no reason to spend 5 years with a cookie.
Yeah.
I mean, if the cookie's not working after a year,
right? You would think
that's way too long. Give it a good try.
Yeah.
Train in non-distracting environments. Teach the dog what is wanted of him, and then you can't have somebody pull you down and break your knee or break your wrist,
right?
Or get to another dog. Or so the man was so excited, and he left with the prong collar, and it was a great program where I would. I offered lessons to any dog that went home. I said, let me come and meet the people here. And really, the prongs ended. And I have to, if anything, the book it's a controversial, because this subject right now is not, we have to push through it's a hard time. Yeah.
You've given me, not that I have enough already on my prayer list, but you've given me certainly something to pray about, and for your dog, your book to do well, so that we can see this change in our society and culture. Right?
And when you think about it, I mean, let's say somebody with a dog, I'll just call it Fluffy because I always do. So they open the door, and there's a busy street, but Fluffy starts to bolt out the door. That person is going to either slam the door, grab the dog, pick it up, because if it didn't, it would be out on the highway. So when people don't use training tools, they end up having to grab their dog anyway. And that's really a first.
Hurt them in a way that's worse than the collar.
It's worse because then they start fearing your hands. They start ducking away from you. When you go to pet them, they think you're going to grab them. And, it's critical thought and really the
We've
movement
lost that
of people.
ability.
Well, and because of social media, it pits each other. You see this polarization where people want to kill each other. I mean, they're having wars and they're having, some, like I said, some of these great guys are big YouTubers and podcasters, but I'm not sure it's going out to the right audience. It's reaching all the trainers. It's reaching all the positive only people, and they're complaining. And then it's reaching all the good balanced trainers, and they're fighting. But it's not reaching the pet dog community. Not here in South Carolina.
Crazy! Wow.
You talk to people that they have no idea that's even going on. So it's only a matter of time when we're not going to be able to buy them here. So Petco took the prong collars and e-collars out of the store, and instead they want you to squirt citronella spray in your dog's face they took shock collars off the shelf, and the solution is to now spray your dog with a citronella spray collar. They can smell the punishment all day long. And if you have 3 dogs, they're all punished because the one barked. Now they can all smell the stink the whole day long. It's I don't know where the critical thought is.
Yeah, and it's not, and there's no science to it either, because it's not. You have the science to back it up.
I haven't even brought up the science because there's a lot of studies. So if you look at position statements from AVSAB or APDT, there's CCPD, there's all these dog trainer organizations.
Yeah. Wow.
They all released position statements around the same time. But there's many studies that they cite. So I, along with some other very well-known balance trainers, have reviewed the research, not for publication, but the studies are so flawed. Some of them were funded by the very people who wanted to ban collars in the first place. So they already knew what result they wanted. It's totally biased research. The distraction was sheep standing still in a pen, and they used the collar to train the dog to come.
Wow.
What are you doing?
Just bogus.
So
that sounds like there needs to be a whole new
horrible
training. Yeah, done.
So they quote this one study all the time, which was the 2014 study. That's the big one that kind of changed everybody. Like, we've concluded that science-based dog training should be positive only. I don't mind positive. It's positive only. They've thrown out half the quadrants of reinforcement. And I basically think it's BS, because
sure is.
Like I said, if your baby was about to fall off a cliff, you'd go,
you'd grab
him by the arm.
Yeah.
Maybe it's horrible that you had to yank him up so he wouldn't fall in the pool, but at least you don't want to get to that point with the dog.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's the book, and it's going to be out as soon as I decide it's good enough. Not yet. And maybe Bruce Cameron, but it's a lot to ask somebody. Maybe Bruce will write a forward, or
that would be great.
I don't know what you call it, but because people might not want to put their name on it because they're endorsing punishment in a way. I mean, but you have to read it and you have to listen to someone. It's kind of like Democrats and Republicans. They want to kill each other. They won't even talk. It's like, you're the enemy, you're evil, you're the devil. No, you are an idiot. And it's like, the main thing is we have to talk.
There was a day when we could, and now it's crazy. We have to turn it back and believe that things can change. And I do believe it.
I do.
Yeah.
And we're ready for, I just hope it gets better. But, I mean, so that's
I'm glad we talked about this. That seems to me, if we do it again, we'll get into the celebrities, but this is more important.
Lady, let's do it again. I'm happy to come on and I do write about them in my book because it's all very fun and safe stories, and really it was a fun time. It was a fun time.
We love our fur babies, and if we could think of a subject that needs reminding or replication, then it's certainly dogs is one of them. So we'll definitely
anytime.
Especially when the book comes out, for sure. And you let me know. I'll stay in touch, and if you don't mind, I'll buy an extra copy to give it away. We'd love to give books away.
Okay. I'll give you a free one. You can buy an extra one and give it away. And I'm happy. We could do I don't know if you have something where people could call in and ask questions, and you could you could advertise it.
We often
people or typing in questions or something.
We'll work that. That sounds like a great deal. Typing comments.
I would love to be questioned. And the other thing is, I know my friend Robert Cabral, who's in California, in LA. He said, I will pay for your plane ticket. You come here and you show me your dog, only trained with cookies, and I'm going to put him chasing a rabbit, and I want to see it. And no one took him up on it. No one did. But I love, show me. Like, if you have a way to do it.
Yes.
And Ivan Balabanov, I'm not copying him. He says it all the time. He's like, show me. I want to see it. Like, I'm not testing you. I'm like, I'm dying to see a method where we don't have to use an aversive. But as of now, I've never seen it.
No.
In 32 years, I've never seen it. I mean, I'm at there's master's classes in agility competitions. I'm not a master. I'm doing novice right now. But Splitty's doing novice. But they are agility people. I don't do it to my dog, but people pick their dog up and leave the ring if they mess up, or they down, no.
That's what it gets. And they haven't tried everything else positive, right?
Well,
and that seems to be.
And like with my agility dogs, I don't discipline ever. On the agility field, it's always yes and. The most I'll do out on the agility field is no reward. So if it was really the dog and not me, because a lot of times we think we're sending the dog the right way, but we really signal the dog to do something else. So 90% of the time, or maybe probably 99% of the time, it's usually the handler that messes up the dog. But if it really is the dog, and the dog is the dog decides to do his own thing, which you've seen on the funny bloopers videos, you simply use no reward is enough.
Yes.
No reward is enough out there. I do not think there should be punishment or discipline out on the agility field. Ever. Not in training.
No.
Not in competition. Right. And there were several times where I thought people should have been asked to leave. Like, it was that bad. Now, I also cried at the agility competition because it's so great to see that many people who have actually trained their dogs properly, and they love their dogs, and everybody has their little kennels with their fans on, and everybody's so happy. But I don't get to meet people like that because everybody that calls me has a problem.
Yeah.
They're already ready to take your dog to the shelter.
Crazy.
I mean, when I get called at the 11th hour, and the call is like, fix the dog right now. Fix the dog now, or I'm dumping him off at Foothills Humane. And it's like, you have an ethical dilemma, because if I make them do 2 years of positive reinforcement, A, they don't have the money. B, you're not solving the problem.
No.
And C, the dog ends up getting surrendered. So I'm sorry, but people who really help dogs, when the client does not have the time and the energy or the resources to train. And then you say, well, why do they have a dog?
Yeah, right.
They have the dog.
Yeah.
They have the dog. I got to help them. So there's, it's
you got a big heart.
And I love when I meet people who want to train the right way, which is all positive, right?
Yes.
All positive. But you start with like a little inkling of a boundary.
Yes.
I put a little pressure on my dog's leash because I don't let him just run out the door from the beginning. Just gently easing the dog into understanding rules and boundaries. Tell us, correction and discipline and aversiveness and discomfort. Tell us where to stay.
Yes.
Tell us what lane to stay in.
We appreciate that when we have that guidance as human beings. What would we have done? Where would we be? We'd be barbarians in some respects. We are.
Soft on crime does not work. Soft on crime, lack of punishment, and again, punishment's got to fit the crime. So, and anybody abusing the tool, like, you don't need a prong collar or an electric collar. The person who's abusing the dog is not going to go out and spend $150 on a collar. They're going to just take a stick and beat the dog.
Yeah.
So whether you have the dog training tools and methods or not, abuse is abuse, and there are laws against abuse, and there's no place for abuse. But they're calling anybody who trains like me abusers.
That's crazy.
I am being called an evil, uneducated. Wow. I'm a Bachelor of Science from UC Davis, but I'm uneducated because I'm a balance trainer. I must be and it's because I can't do it with only treats.
That's crazy. Wow.
And I can. I've trained many dogs that didn't need correction.
Yep, that's right.
But it's few and far between, and I'm a trainer.
Yeah.
So, there's a line, and we just have to be honest, people.
Yep, we do. Let's pray. I'm going to pray for you.
Pray.
This dog,
virtual hand holding.
Yes.
Okay.
My wife's over here. All right.
Dear,
Jesus,
dear
thank
Father.
you. Thank you, Lord. Thank you for Dina, Lord, for her passion for not this subject, but this creature we call dog. And for all the other animals that you've blessed her to train through the years. And Father, I pray that you would just give her the emotional strength and stability with friends and family members who are on her side, other trainers even like her, to be able to push through this crazy woke time that has got its tentacles down into our own furry friends. And I pray, Father, the book would do well, and that, yes, Bruce or somebody like Bruce would give a good forward, and that it would be able to go out to a far greater audience than she would ever have imagined, even this evening as we speak. Thank you, Father. We praise you and love you in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 God bless you, Ralph.
You too. Let's stay in touch.
I do want to celebrate God.
Yes.
And,
Amen.
I have gone through lots of spiritual awakenings and changes. And I think coming to South Carolina was really refreshing in that way, because there really is a church on every corner.
Yes, there is.
You can feel God here. It's wonderful.
That's awesome.
And God bless you. And
You
thank
too.
you for the prayer. That was the most beautiful prayer. So thank you.
It was heartfelt. We'll have to have you come visit us sometime.
I will come back.
I'm
going to see if Bruce. I'm going to see if Bruce will watch this. Hi, Bruce.
Oh yeah, I'm going to send it to him later.
And then I can say,
we can.
Maybe he could write it, because it's scary. I don't expect someone to put themselves on the line.
Yeah, it's tough. You would understand.
It's controversial. It's people don't understand, and if they just see what it is, and your name is on there, it could be scary. So I'm not scared. So
we'll be in touch. Let's stay in touch. Let me know if you get a hold of it.
Okay. And now you can laugh. Well, you can laugh when I try to turn this off, because I have no idea how to shut this off.
I'll go first.